Finally returned from holiday, where I took the chance. I chose to go to Center North Europe, Germany, Belgium, north of France, and one of the things besides holiday, because of course I was on holiday, so I was a lot of the time pretty much doing holiday things, emptying my head, going about, doing pleasure things, visiting friends, old friends. But I had one thing in mind, is that because of this part of Europe is very easy to communicate, especially, for example, in the Flanders zone, where everyone speaks English, and you don't even have to ask if they speak English. You immediately speak, and they retort in English. So I went to this big festival, huge festival in a city called Ghent. Really beautiful city. I really advise you, if you can, to visit it. It's really friendly. So a couple of things. I'm not gonna describe all my things. There was pretty much a family trip. Really nice. Really enjoyed those. Walk, have fun with the little differences you find along the way. It's really nice. But one thing I can say, for example, if I relate to the ongoing conflicts in the world, I saw a lot of flags in windows, private houses, and some businesses of Free Palestine, in support of Palestine, which really I really like that. And concerning, for example, the conflict in Ukraine, you can see one thing is very clear. You look at the people are going on about their lives, enjoying festivals, summer festivals. It's really, even if the propaganda it's very strong, because it is, it won't be easy to drag the people of Europe, even if their governments are in bed with Washington, to a war. And if you cannot mobilize the people, you won't have any war. Of course, resources are not just countrywide. Human resources are worldwide. So that's why mercenary companies are more and more popular. But the propaganda had an effect in the beginning, where the most ignorant people, and when I say ignorant, it's ignorant about the subject, fall for it. Oh, let's defend Ukraine against the tyranny of Russia. They went immediately, but you don't have those anymore. And so, and what I see here is that to convince, when you go about and talk to these people, it's the least thing, or it's the subject is not on their minds. Of course, I haven't taken any survey. You can accuse me of that, but you can have the feeling of it when you talk to a lot of people and you see their manifestations, their open manifestations on the streets, and especially people like even in Germany, not a single. I remember going a couple of years ago to the Netherlands, and I could see in some buildings, public buildings, some displays of support for Ukraine, some Ukrainian flags. You don't see that anymore. Zero reference to that. And I think that one of the reasons that is that once, there are many reasons, but one of the reasons is that once the conflict, not the conflict, but this exponential increase in violence on behalf of Israel has started towards Gaza, I think a lot of people, the most distracted ones, the ones that were only falling for the propaganda, really saw the face of NATO and the Western powers, because where are the standards now? Where are the standards of standing for the little guy? Of standing for the oppressed people? Where are the sanctions to Israel? Where, you see, none of that shenanigans happened in the case of Israel. Israel keeps going on. It's open air mass murder. It's the outlets, the propaganda outlets of the West. Not all of them, because some start to twist their narrative, but very lightly. They do it very carefully, not to offend Israel, right? And it seems like that the journalism in the Western world can be free to say many things, except if it mentions politically Israel. It's immediately oppressed. This has to mean something. Of course, Israel is an armed tentacle of the bigger empire, but it's also of the European Union. We are supplying the weapons to them. We are, even if we did not supply the weapons, we just stand idle, we would be accomplices for these crimes it is committing. And it is committing today, now, as we speak. Continuously been committing. I met this Palestinian guy on a wheelchair during this vacation. He was trying to get residency, and the guy was 40-year-old on a wheelchair, and everyone immediately thinks, oh, it's about the mess that is going on now in Israel. No, his injuries made by the Israeli forces are from 10 years ago. And this people have to realize this. This has been going on since 1948 at least. Of course, from before. If you study the history a little bit more care, you see the Balfour Declaration, and I mean the cessation of this land from the Ottoman Empire to the British Empire. You can see that this has been going on, and it started openly after World War II with the genocide, Nakba. Apart from that, I really didn't pay too much attention to the news. You really need vacation if you pay too much attention to the news throughout all the year or several months in a row. You need to take a break, right? And you need to see that the world is not made of the narratives that are on the news. This is very important to preserve your health, your mental health, to realize this. I took this fun trip to Dunkirk, you know, the famous beach of Dunkirk, where Operation Dynamo took place. It was quite fun. I went to take a look at the bunkers there. They're not abandoned, they're property of authorities, of France. But it is fun to see how the nature has taken care of those bunkers. They were built on the sand, so eventually that's what would happen. So the coastline has receded, and some of the bunkers fell into the beach, and the whole structure is broken. But it's really fun to visit it and see it, and you can have the feeling of World War II. We went to the museum too. Despite the rain, you could look at that beach and feel and have the feeling of that day of Operation Dynamo, the evacuation of all those troops. You know Operation Dynamo, right? I'm talking about this as assuming that all of you know what Operation Dynamo was. It's written by Western historians as a success, which in a way you can view it. It's like, I don't see it as much as a success. I see it as the lesser of two evils, right? Because in fact, militarily, it's a result of a disastrous campaign. Just go on about a little bit of this history. In 1940, after Britain and France, the major powers of the world at the time, declared war on Germany because Germany had invaded Poland. They were not effective. They took some stances near the German border. They had taken a stance in the northern French border, defensive stance. But the troops composed of the British Expeditionary Force and French troops, they left their defensive positions and advanced. They went on to more advanced positions, unaware of the German tactics and of the audacity of the German generals, and of a German general, a famous one, which, for example, Heinz Guderian tells that if it was not for the audacity of this general, of this particular general, maybe it didn't go as it went, right? And I'm talking about Erwin Rommel, where he took great risks to go to be the spearhead of this blitzkrieg, which surrounded. They went all through the way through. They crossed the Meuse through the forest, bypassing the Maginot Line, and then curving north and surrounding a huge number of troops, both composed of Belgium and French and British troops. So it was a big fiasco, big military fiasco. It's an interesting episode of story. I've read the memories of Erich von Manstein and of Heinz Guderian, and they really tell in detail how this went on the side of the Germans, of course. And the roles of these three generals being Erich von Manstein, Heinz Guderian, the developer of the doctrine. Of course, none of these men were like fervorous Nazis, right? But they just had a better military school and a better military thinking. They reflected on the mistakes of World War I, while the English and the French decided to forget them instead of reflecting them. So, not gonna go too much into this. This is all about the tank doctrine, new tactics of the World War II, the Blitzkrieg. I think I mentioned this in a video called Big Arrow Bullshit, where I compare these tactics with the war in Ukraine. Anyway, I have plenty of videos telling this history. I am I really read. It was one of the episodes in history I've read the most about. So yeah, so I went there to Dunkirk and see the beach. Made a small video on top of the bunkers. I went there with my daughter, by the way, and she enjoyed it a lot too. She likes to learn these things from her father. So yeah, and meanwhile in Ukraine, while I was on my vacation, I thought to myself, this is also a nice experience not to update myself on Ukraine for 10 days in a row on the frontline situation, for example. And then after 10 days, yesterday I went to see some reports, went through a lot of Telegram channels, went through Dima, went to Southfront, went to some YouTubers, pro-Ukrainian YouTubers, and the overall is that the Russians are still advancing. They are having a hard time in Volchansk. It is true, they are having a hard time in Volchansk, but that's because the Ukrainians have committed a lot of force that they panicked, and they have taken a lot of forces from other parts of the front lines and committed them there, and I think which made a lot of lines weaker. Anyway, the quality of their manpower is dwindling, and you can see it. A lot of parts of the front line, the Russians advance with not too much difficulty. Only the drones are hampering the Russians, because if it weren't for the drones, and even in the drone war, they're increasing in numbers, but also the defense against them are increasing too. So, and the Ukrainians started to use land drones because of this, because of the increasing quality of anti-drone defense that the Russians have. So they're starting to using land drones to avoid this coverage. It's a new thing. Yeah, this war is gonna be big jump in war tactics and with the new technology. But nevertheless, the Russians are still, for those who keep writing on my comments that Russian is a second-grade army, it's no quality or whatever, it's no good. It is not true. Again, I have to tell you that the nature of that war is one like we have never seen in many decades. I don't think the Americans could fight that war on their own without having their asses kicked. And I think that's why they keep massacring the Ukrainians. They keep using the Ukrainians as cannon fodder. It's the perfect game for them. And the Russians, of course, it's a matter of life and death for them. You can never forget the fact that Russia's doorstep has not moved. It was NATO that moved to Russia's doorstep. And it's funny how when you use this argument, people, hey, that's the Kremlin talking points. It's not the Kremlin talking points, it's the facts. It's the fucking facts. I mean, it's already... Yeah. Okay, guys. On my commute to work, I hope I see you on the next one.